So let's jump right into it. We now know that the Jay Garrick we knew was a time remnant of Hunter Zolomon. He's not a twin, he's not a doppelganger, and fortunately he wasn't doing a speed mirage. So Hunter tells us that he went back in time and met another version of himself, and then he got his time remnant to agree to let him murder him. So before I jump in and give a full review of the episode and give some predictions, I want to discuss exactly what a time remnant is. Now the actual full term is a timeline remnant, and we really only have one example of this on the show before, and this is of course with Earbud Thorn, aka the Reverse Flash. So a timeline remnant can exist only if you are a speedster and protected by the Speed Force, and if that speedster is already dead, you can only exist in the past of that speedster's timeline. So let's explore everything about the revelations from the recent episode and Hunter's explanation of using his timeline remnant. So the first thing the show does is it wants us to compare Barry's upbringing with Hunter's upbringing. Now interestingly, we know that Barry's flashback happened 15 years ago. However, for Hunter's flashback, they leave it very vague, only captioning it saying that it happened many years ago, and I think this is a massive clue, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So Hunter was never a Garrick, he was a Zolomon. His mother Ashley was killed in front of him by his father James Zolomon. In the comics, James Zolomon's even worse and is himself a serial killer. The name Ashley is a nod to Hunter's eventual wife in the comics, Ashley. An interesting piece of information is that Hunter's dad James was sent to prison so he could still be considered to be alive on Earth 2. Now Jay is a common nickname for James, so this is possibly why Hunter ironically named his hero persona Jay after his evil father. But we still don't understand why he chose the surname Garrick. Now I think we're going to get answers as to where he got the Garrick part from when we find out who the man in the iron mask is. I'm going to talk more about the likely candidates for the man in the iron mask a little bit later, but I think we can pretty much scratch off James Zolomon, as even though it was mentioned he was in prison, I'm pretty sure he's long dead by now. So anyway, Hunter Zolomon grows up to be a serial killer. He's convicted and sent to St. Perez Asylum for the criminally insane. Perez is also the surname of legendary comic book artist George Perez, who just happened to work on the Crisis on Infinite Earths title, which sees, of course, the destruction of the multiverse, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they use his name here. So Hunter Zolomon being a serial killer is apparently common knowledge if you're from Earth 2, and it's something which Wells knew all along, but unfortunately Caitlin waited 7 episodes to tell the rest of Team Flash that she knew Jay's doppelganger on Earth 1 was named Hunter Zolomon. So was that man on the bench the true Earth 1 Hunter Zolomon doppelganger? It's more likely that he's the timeline remnant who was colluding with Hunter from the beginning, which begs the question, who is the real Hunter Zolomon doppelganger on Earth 1? Doesn't seem like Team Flash has done much research into this. And on that subject, why would Hunter, who has planned everything meticulously, make such a silly mistake to let Caitlin know his real name? I mean, he knew she would eventually tell Wells, who would instantly recognize him, unless name-dropping Hunter Zolomon was all part of his plan all along. So anyway, I thought it was pretty cool the way Barry used Hunter's past to distract him by showing pictures of his mother and father. So Barry finally catches Zoom, only to have him ominously say that you can't lock up the darkness. His eyes blacken and he seems to almost draw on some kind of a dark power which allows him to break free. He kidnaps Wally and promises only to release him if Barry gives him his speed. So it's interesting that he would take Wally. After all, Wally's hardly the person Barry loves the most in his life. We know, of course, Zoom wouldn't have been able to find Irish Joe, Caitlin or Cisco because they were all hiding in the time vault, but he could have easily held Barry's father Henry hostage in exchange for Barry's speed. This is probably the writer's way of bringing Wally into Team Flash. I think it's definitely going to be the beginning of Wally West's journey into becoming a speedster on the show, which is pretty awesome because I think with all these threats, Barry definitely needs the help of a good speedster to help him out. But then again, Hunter being a time traveler, he may already know that Wally is going to become a speedster and is trying to perhaps hasten Wally joining Team Flash and becoming a speedster so he can then go on and steal his speed as well. Ironically, in the comics, Hunter worked with Wally West and they were friends before he became Zoom. So taking it a step back in the episode, Cisco and Barry locate the area that has the strongest residual trans-dimensional energy, which happens to be the St. Perez Children's Hospital on Earth 1, but on Earth 2 is the St. Perez Asylum for the criminally insane. It's the same place where Hunter received electroshock therapy on the night of the particle accelerator explosion on Earth 2 and how he received his speed. So that was supposedly 2 years ago. Now, I don't know about you, but this whole scene seems like it was taken from the 1940s or 50s. This equipment looks extremely old-fashioned. Now, this may just be a design choice the show made, but I think there's a small chance this could play into the story, especially when you factor in the fact that Hunter is seemingly a seasoned time traveler. But anyway, Hunter has made this asylum his lair and is fully aware that Cisco has the power to reopen the breaches, and in fact is willing him on from the other side when he sees it start to open. Now remember, Cisco's doppelganger Reverb of Earth 2 was working for Zoom. So in order for him to know about this ability, he must have seen Reverb do it before. And Reverb has almost definitely opened breaches to other universes for Zoom before. And as I said, we know that Zoom has been able to travel through time. So while Zoom says he went to the past to locate his time remnant, it's more likely that his time remnant is actually his future self from his timeline. Because if he had killed himself from the past of his timeline, he would cease to exist. Which leads me to believe that perhaps this version of Hunter Zolomon who gave this explanation is not quite being truthful, and that perhaps the Jay Garrick we knew wasn't a timeline remnant, and is perhaps a doppelganger from another Earth. After all, he had Reverb that could open breaches to other worlds. But then again, I may just be overthinking this, trying to find a more logical answer than the show is presenting. I think we may just have to accept that there are going to be some plot holes when you deal with time travel in the multiverse, and just move forward and enjoy the show. So Hunter gets Wells to steal Barry's speed. Now, I don't know about all of you, but Wells seems very suspicious. I mean, he always seems to pop up with ideas that seem to help Zoom's plan along very nicely. For example, helping Cisco recalibrate his vibe goggles to reopen the breaches, and Team Flash are all too quick to believe all the information Wells feeds them. We haven't seen any other serious consequences of Barry going back in time, but what if the main consequence is that this actually isn't Earth 2 Wells, and rather the Wells we're looking at is actually Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, and could he possibly be working with Zoom or manipulating Zoom? As I just have this feeling that Hunter is not from our time and that he's possibly from the past, and Wells may be helping him hide this fact. Now, the only evidence I have for this idea are all these old-fashioned flashbacks that look just a little bit too old-fashioned. The asylum scene, and just look at this gun his father is using, or his father's uniform, or even the helmet. It's all just very old-fashioned when compared to the flashbacks of Barry as a kid. However, this may just be the show trying to show that it's Earth 2. So Hunter shows that he has some real feelings for Caitlin and lets Barry live for now. But he kidnaps Caitlin, and Team Flash are going to have to figure out how to get her back from Earth 2. Barry is probably going to be very desperate to get Caitlin back and could resort to using Velocity 9, which, if you remember, the current version was actually helping Zoom to heal. And I think we're going to see Barry resort to using the serum in order to get back his real Speed Force, and of course shut Zoom down for good. And I'm especially looking forward to Caitlin meeting her evil doppelganger who recently turned good, aka Killer Frost. So after everything that happened in the episode, let's talk about who the man in the iron mask could be. Now, when Barry asks Hunter who it is, he says, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Well, personally, I think there are a couple options. So I mentioned before that Hunter's dad's name was James, which is short for Jay. So that could explain why Hunter called himself Jay. However, that doesn't explain the Garrick part, and there's no way that Garrick is just a random name. After all, Jay Garrick is the original Flash in the comics. In fact, Greg Berlanti on Twitter went as far to say, "Those inquiring, we love Jay Garrick and would never make him a baddie. No reinvention, keep watching." So this probably means that Jay is going to be the man in the iron mask, and that he will probably end up helping Barry. And if he's not the man in the iron mask, he'll show up in some or other form. But I think we can be pretty certain that he is. It's unclear why Zoom is holding him there. Perhaps Zoom came across him in the past and also stole his speed. And Barry may end up helping Jay to also regain his speed. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the man in the iron mask is the real Jay Garrick. But the big question is, the real Jay Garrick from where? In other words, from which universe in the multiverse? And then the Jay Garrick from when? In other words, from when in time. So what do you all think of the reveal that the Jay Garrick we knew was apparently a timeline remnant of Hunter Zolomon? And will Jay Garrick be a completely different person? Or was there possibly some truth in what Hunter Zolomon said and Jay Garrick could be a Hunter Zolomon doppelganger? Or perhaps an ancestor or descendant? And who do you think the man in the iron mask is? So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and then share it. I post lots of videos every week on comic book, movies, TV, including Star Wars, Game of Thrones and other blockbusters, so why not subscribe? Thanks again. Cheers for now.